Today's video is about a country that got incredibly lucky in the 20th century. In the early 1900s, it was a poor and undeveloped desert land with no natural resources. But everything changed when vast oil reserves were discovered. Overnight, the country became one of the wealthiest and most powerful nations in the world. At the same time, it has maintained medieval social norms while investing billions in futuristic tech projects. These are 10 fascinating facts about Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is not just a land of deserts and scorching heat. It is a country ruled by a single dynasty. The name Saudi Arabia literally refers to the ruling Al Saud family. Imagine if the Russian Empire had been called the Romanov Empire. That's the concept here. King Abdulaziz Al Saud united scattered tribal territories under one flag and named the country after his own family. Since then, his descendants have ruled it like a family business, one that controls oil, influences global politics, and holds custodianship over Islam's holiest cities. Before Saudi Arabia became a nation, the Arabian Peninsula was inhabited for centuries by nomadic tribes. These tribes were primarily concerned with access to water. Oases were the most valuable resource, the equivalent of today's oil wells. These nomads were independent, often at odds with one another, and survived in harsh desert conditions most people today couldn't endure. Islam was born on this land, and its most sacred religious sites have always been here. Yet, a unified state didn't exist until 1932. When King Abdulaziz consolidated power. Just a few years later, in 1938, massive oil reserves were found, the kind that immediately catapulted the country into global prominence. Suddenly, someone who had once been a poor Bedouin could become an oil magnate, influencing global fuel prices. Oil brought unimaginable wealth and geopolitical power. But Saudi Arabia isn't just about oil. It is also the spiritual center of Islam. The cities of Mecca and Medina, Islam's two holiest sites, are located here. Every year, millions of Muslims from around the world make the pilgrimage to Mecca, known as Hajj. This pilgrimage brings not only religious significance, but also substantial revenue and international influence, much like hosting the Olympics annually for 1.5 billion people. For a long time, the kingdom was closed off to tourists. Entry was restricted, but recently, Saudi Arabia began to open its doors as part of a long-term strategy. The country knows oil won't last forever and is looking for new revenue streams, tourism being one of them. In recent years, social changes have rapidly accelerated. For instance, women were previously barred from many rights and seen as second-class citizens. Now, women are allowed to drive and have been granted other freedoms. Saudi Arabia today is a curious blend of ultra-conservatism and high-tech modernism. Despite these reforms, the country remains one of the most closed societies in the world. Many restrictions stem from internal religious laws rather than foreign policy. Contrary to popular belief, modern culture isn't completely banned, unlike in countries like Afghanistan, where strict religious rules suppress almost everything. In Saudi Arabia, there are no official lists of banned music or dance styles, but local religious police, known as the Mutawa, monitor what is considered appropriate. Restrictions aim to prevent moral corruption, idolatry, and dissent. Much of pop culture is taboo. Pokemon, Harry Potter, rock music, even mild erotic content and gambling are banned. Religious holidays not aligned with Sunni Islam, such as Christmas, Easter, and Hanukkah, are also prohibited. You won't find churches, cathedrals, or synagogues in Saudi Arabia. Private worship is permitted, but only inside one's home. For Sunni Muslims, particularly Arab Israelis, respect is extended. However, Jewish Israeli citizens are almost entirely banned from entering, with very rare diplomatic exceptions. Public celebrations are heavily restricted. Foreigners might enjoy traditional barbecues in the desert, but always in private. Alcohol is completely prohibited in any form, quantity, or strength. It is considered haram, a sin. The Quran holds legal supremacy over any constitution or legal code in the country. Pork is also banned, as is any meat not slaughtered according to Islamic halal guidelines. Australia, one of the top lamb exporters to Saudi Arabia, must either ship live animals or involve certified Islamic clerics in the slaughtering process. Another unusual restriction involves baby names. There's an official list of names that are banned. Some are prohibited for being offensive to Islam, such as naming a child Nabi, meaning prophet, while others are banned for political reasons. For example, Benjamin, referencing the Israeli Prime Minister, is not allowed. Photography and filming face tight controls. Women cannot be photographed, and men must give permission before being filmed. Government buildings are strictly off limits for any recording. In recent years, the country has eased some restrictions to attract tourists. Cinemas and co-ed restaurants were legalized, social media apps were unblocked, and athletic opportunities were expanded. Women still face many limitations. Traditionally, they could not travel or move freely without a male guardian, or mahram, usually a father, husband, or brother. Some of these laws have been relaxed, allowing women to travel abroad without male approval. However, gender segregation remains in place. Restaurants, public transport, and even gyms are separated into male and female sections. Women can now drive, a right granted in 2018, and participate in more areas of public life. However, employers must still provide separate entrances, restrooms, and workspaces for female staff. These shifts mark a slow but notable evolution in gender roles within the kingdom. Saudi Arabia's religious police operate under a special government ministry called the Committee for the Promotion of Virtue and the Prevention of Vice. Their duties include monitoring alcohol consumption, public affection, dancing, and women's dress code. These officers can issue punishments on the spot, and their rulings are immediately enforceable. Despite these harsh laws, the country reports a very low crime rate. Even with a large migrant population, minor offenses may result in lashes, while more serious crimes can lead to amputations or even public execution. While corporal punishment has been softened in recent years, including the abolition of flogging in 2020, amputations are still legal for crimes like theft. International human rights organizations continue to criticize Saudi Arabia, but its close alliance with the United States ensures that such issues are often overlooked. Government positions are exclusively held by members of the royal family, around 25,000 individuals, including more than 200 princes. Power is transferred from brother to brother. Unlike the Western tradition of passing the crown from father to son, municipal elections exist but are largely symbolic. The current ruler is King Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, though real power lies with his son, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The Crown Prince has led several bold initiatives, including the partial privatization of Saudi Aramco and the military intervention in Yemen in 2015, which continues to this day. Saudi Arabia also hosts one of the most extravagant beauty contests, not for people, but for camels. These animals are judged on neck length, eyelash curl, head shape, and hump symmetry. Competitions last up to 40 days, with prize funds reaching $57 million. Cosmetic enhancements like Botox are strictly forbidden. Camels are brought in from all over the world, particularly from Australia, which now exports high-quality camels to Saudi Arabia. A poetic twist, since camels were originally brought to Australia from Arabia 200 years ago. The population of Saudi Arabia grows rapidly, increasing by about 1.5 million people per year. As of 2024, the population is around 38 million, with over a third being migrant workers. Citizenship is technically possible for Sunni Muslims, but it's extremely difficult to obtain. A complex point system considers language proficiency, religious observance, social activity, credit history, and political alignment. Becoming a migrant worker is easier now than before 2022, thanks to immigration reforms inspired by Qatar's experience during the FIFA World Cup. Skilled professionals, especially doctors, builders, and IT workers, are now in demand. The government occasionally rewards citizens with cash bonuses during religious holidays. Salaries are relatively high, with the 2023 minimum wage set at $800 and the average wage at $2,750. The poverty rate is estimated at below 1.5%. Let's now talk about executions. While many countries move away from capital punishment, Saudi Arabia still applies it widely for crimes ranging from murder and terrorism to witchcraft and blasphemy. Executions, including public beheadings, are carried out in city squares, meant to serve as deterrents to the public. Corporal punishment also persists, including limb amputation for certain crimes. Though flogging was abolished in 2020 and replaced with prison time or fines, physical penalties remain part of the legal system. Despite international pressure, Saudi Arabia continues these practices, largely ignored by its key ally, the United States, which values the kingdom's strategic oil reserves and regional influence more than its human rights record. Saudi Arabia is trying to evolve into a modern country while holding on tightly to ancient traditions, a paradoxical balancing act. The kingdom understands that oil profits won't last forever, so it is investing in tech, real estate, and foreign companies. The crown prince, while wearing traditional robes in Saudi Arabia, dons suits and ties on visits to American tech giants. His most ambitious project is NEOM, a futuristic desert city. NEOM is envisioned as two massive mirrored walls stretching over 120 kilometers, housing people in a single-line city without roads, only underground transit, elevators, and layered urban levels. The concept is incredibly futuristic, but its feasibility is in question. So far, foreign investment has been limited, and many experts doubt its viability. Still, with the country's vast oil wealth, even failed experiments may go unnoticed on the national budget. Thanks for watching this video until the end. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hope to see you again soon.